Hello there. Well, let me start by saying compliments of the season to all our viewers out there. We say a very big thank you also for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Kemi Fola Adeyemo. Today on the program, Magodo Brooks Residents Association apologizes to Lagos Police Commissioner over the fracas at Estate Gate, saying guards didn't mean to embarrass CP Odumosu. Plus, Senator Ndume urges federal government to name and prosecute financiers of terrorism insurgency in Nigeria. And later on the show, federal government introduces new regulations for visitors to the State House over outbreak of COVID-19. I'll be hanging out with Mayor Hakeem Odumosu and Olabisi Deji Folutle. Welcome to the program, Mayor. Happy New Year. It's good to see you on the program again. And we hope to see more of you, of course, indeed. Thank you so much for joining in. BKO is back from his trip to the Northeast and will be on the show soon. In the meantime, Journalist Hangout starts now. The New Year festivities didn't go without some skirmishes here in Lagos, particularly in the Magodo Brooks estate, when the team of the State Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Odumosu, clashed with guards stationed at the estate gate. The police commissioner, who was angered by the attitude of the guards for delaying him in getting access to the estate for a function, ordered their arrest and detention. But officials of the Magodo Brooks Residential Association have apologized to Mr. Odumosu over the rift. In a letter, the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Ayola Lawson, explained that the guards didn't mean to embarrass him, and that's how we begin the program today. So there had been, gentlemen, back and forth between the police PRO and the estate leadership. But what do you make of this, Olabisi, when you look at the back and forth? There does seem to have been a breakdown in communication. But first things first, how did it all seem to you?
Actually, I think I saw a case of breakdown in communication, first of all, because I think that if the Commissioner of Police was to attend a function in the estate, at least the security people ought to have been informed beforehand. I also saw a case of, I look at the two accounts of the estate residents and that of the police PRO. I could see that the issues here are clearly that of probably security guards trying to defer to the estate management that employed them, and a police commissioner that felt highly embarrassed that he wasn't given the right recognition at the point of entrance at that particular point in time. Even though the two sides try to give us the impression that well, for the estate, they didn't want to let us know that probably the security delayed the commissioner more than what should have been appropriate. And also the police side do not want us to believe that the police commissioner acted to, used its power against the resident. But if you look closely, you can see that both of them heard one way or the other. Both sides try to overdo in one way or the other, because I expected the security guards to have got in touch even with the estate management, that probably they saw some powerful movements at the gates which they may not understand, and you see, they could be afraid that probably some of their some of the estates or the landlords are to be arrested, because they may not be used to that kind of high level of official movement. So they may want to probably get a clarification. And because the management of the estates were probably not aware that the police commissioner was coming there, they too might also like to make some inquiries, which could have resulted in the delay that was experienced before the gates were opened for the police commissioner, and you know, that kind of a thing. So it's bad, but at the same time, I would have expected the police commissioner to exercise some kind of restraints, because I say that because of the police image right now, and as a leader, I've loved a situation where he could have managed it better, such that people are not arrested, even though the basis for arresting them, like, you know, the police, they can have a reason for every form of arrest. All right.
Well, that said, Mayor, what is it like to you? First, an issue, and this has also, you know, pitted the polity or divided the polity somewhat. Many are backing the police chief for his actions, whether he was on a social visit, the fact that in his capacity as a police chief coming into an estate, the police calls it a public place, the residents call it, you know, something else, that it is a private, you know, estate. A number of dignitaries reside there. But for you, Madam Bisi has said that both sides erred. How is it for you?
I want to defy a little. I think maybe because of the NSAS, we seem to have lost our respect for constituted authority, because it is irresponsible of those security guards to stop the commissioner of police from accessing any estate, because that is the man in charge of security in this state. But you see, when it is different, if it comes in a private capacity, is driving a car, they can say we don't know him, you understand, and that is the reason for that. Somebody was coming with full complement of guards and outrider, and he gets to a gate of an estate, and he explained to them that this is the commissioner of police, and they said he cannot access the place unless he call whoever he wants to see. That is not acceptable. You see, part of the problem is that when because of this, our love for freedom and fundamental rights and all that, we do things that we don't look at the implication of those things. When we don't give police authority, when you run into problem in that estate, when armed robbers attack that estate, they will be screaming and calling the police to come and protect them. So you cannot ask, because yes, you have, if you live in a gated estate, yes, you have the right to put security in place in your estate, but you cannot stop people, emergency workers, to access your estate. Police, firefighters, ambulances, you cannot stop them from accessing that estate. So when the commissioner waited for some time, trying to tell them that I want to access this place, and they are saying you can't do that. It is unacceptable. He didn't enter until he arrested those guards. That shouldn't have happened, because I will give you an example. I live in Omole Estate. There was a time like that, armed robbers came to the estate in Omole, and my neighbor called me to say, oh, armed robbers is in our estate, and we should try to see those that will call. Incidentally, the same commissioner of police now, Odumosu, was the commander of RRS at that time. It was around 3 a.m. So I called him, and luckily he picked the call. He picked the call immediately, and I said, oh, there's armed robbers in our estate. And he asked the address, so I had to give the address of my own house. And in about 10 minutes, RRS entered our estate, you understand? And the robbers had to abandon things they were doing. There was 4 units in the places where they were robbed, and they were in the first house. But because they came in, you know, they stayed in my house, so asked me to come out so that I could tell them. I just said, no, go to the next street. The armed robbers and the next street, they are not in my own house, I can't come out. But what I'm saying is that it is the police that were able to save us that night. If, for example, the police people get to the gate, and you are telling them that, look, you cannot access this estate until you call mayor to call us that you have to enter, they won't be able to save those people that were attacked by armed robbers. So we have to look at it. I understand why the chairman of the board of trustees apologized to the guy, because what they did is wrong. You cannot stop the police chief that is in full control. Somebody told me that they said if the president comes to, you cannot tell me that the governor of Lagos State will get to Magodo or Brooks and you will say no, the governor of Lagos State cannot enter unless you call somebody that will now clear you to enter. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. The police have specific duties to do. It's not there as Mr. Odumosu. It was there as AIG Odumosu, Commissioner of Police, Lagos State.
or not.
So, what is going there to do does not matter. It's possible that he's doing something that is important to the state, and he needed to see somebody at that party who will give an important information or who will clarify certain things to him. It's possible. So, I can understand if they don't know him. But immediately he introduced himself and they saw the convoy with the signal of the Commissioner of Police, and then you now say that, oh, it's our estate, you cannot enter our estate. That is not acceptable.
But looking at the account of the estate, they say that, well, they wouldn't call it in subordination as the police have described it, overzealousness on the part of the security operatives at the gate. According to the residents, they said the people at the gate were arrested even when they were trying to help the police chief and his retinue locate where exactly he was going to, seeing as it was a social event, and then the police chief took it otherwise, and then they tried pleading with him. The police has also said that even when they arrested those officers, they left one person, and so as not to leave the place, you know, bereft of security, they actually brought in secured. They brought in officers to come and secure the place with all their gadgets and all that. But this back and forth, this fact that no one actually seems to accept responsibility, and so it leaves more gaps, as you said.
Yeah, you see, what I saw in this episode, as far as I am concerned, is a police authority trying to use its power. Okay, yes, agreed that the police have the right to enter anywhere. Constitutionally, there is even freedom of movement for every Nigerian, even according to our constitution. But then we also know that there are places you get to that you can't enter except to clear yourself, even as a Nigerian. Right? Okay, yes, the police commissioner cannot be compared with an ordinary Nigerian. He has more powers and all of that. If I want to go by the accounts of the residents, like you have rightly explained, the residents said that they actually allowed the police commissioner to go to that party, and they stayed by the gates so that when he's coming back, they could apologize to him, which they did. And when they apologized to him, he was still fuming, and he ordered the arrest of another set of security people that were brought to man the gates. If he did that, that was also a display of power by the police commissioner, if that account is true. Because if the residents came to you to apologize for whatever the security operatives could have done wrong, and you still felt that you were embarrassed, and if you look at the statements of the police PRO, it was clearly, the issue of embarrassment was clearly stated, and humiliation, that you cannot humiliate the police commissioner, you cannot embarrass the police commissioner. So what are we talking about here? Is it a case of humiliating a personality, or a case of preventing the police commissioner from performing an official function? Which one are we looking at here? So you could see that the action of the police boss was more or less of dealing with people that tried to embarrass me, people that could not recognize my authority, people that refused to allow me to go in based on personal recognition. I had my rider in front of me. I had everything about me. It showed that I was the police commissioner. I don't even have to explain to you that I'm the police commissioner in the first instance. So doing that is like going out of my way to explain to you, and now you refusing to allow me to go in shows that you need to be taught a good lesson. And what reason did they give for arresting the widow and her children? They said for inciting violence and disturbance of public peace. You can imagine that those accusations and allegations against somebody that they were aware was a true resident of that estate. So what am I saying? Well, I'm trying to say that the police authorities, the police boss, for me, went overboard. More so when the residents association had come around to plead with him, to beg him to apologize on behalf of the security people at the gates. And I also want to state that these security people that man gates, they can also be overzealous. And as far as they are concerned, they don't even respect anybody aside the management, the estate management that employs them. If you have been to that Magodo Brooks before, you know that their gates are automated. Usually they will ask you where you are going to. I've been there, and when you tell them where you are going, they allow you in. You get it. But I also think when I'm talking about overzealousness is because of the kind of retinue of people that probably followed the police boss. He didn't go there alone. You get it. So those security people too, they wanted to show that they were something, that you can't come to our gates and give us order. We have people that are managing us here. I see that, I could sense that from their attitude, which I don't also think is right. But for me, even if the residents were wrong, I expect the police boss to have done differently. Why? Because it's an authority figure. You get it? Whatever he does will be scrutinized, analyzed, and all of that. Just imagining a situation where if the police boss, for example, had waited it through, even for the residents management to come, and at the end of the day, those security operatives realized that they actually embarrassed such an important...
Not just even the police and the police boss and his crew,
yes,
but even the estate. Exactly.
Yeah, I guess they could have felt bad, and all of us could have been praising the police boss for exercising a strange sense of maturity in that particular situation. I'm saying this because we are in a country where policemen do as they like to the citizens. Everybody uses his power as they like. We talk about policemen arresting innocent Nigerians for different kinds of reasons. We are talking about NSAS and all of that. So as the police boss, whatever he does is very important. And that is why I'm thinking that he could have handled the situation differently. Right.
Mayor, how do you look at, the level of response, from the police chief? How appropriate would you, describe it?
I think, without censorship, I think the police commissioner behaved appropriately. You see, perception is everything. In the issue of power, if the commissioner of police is denied by these private securities, they're not even certified security people. They're just employed by some people and called in a company and put as security gate. If those people can want to show power to the commissioner of police, then we're in trouble. You see, the problem with us is that because the police have done so many things that we don't like, we want to throw the baby with the bathwater. That's the same problem that we had after NSAS. And security broke down because we felt that the best way to solve the NSAS problem is to destroy the Nigerian police. We can't do that. It's throwing the baby with the bathwater. You can, if the commissioner of police, the most important police officer, the officer of state, because the police is the symbol of the state. Police is the symbol of the state. So if ordinary security man in Brooks can tell the commissioner of police that you are not important, this is our estate, we will do whatever we like, then you are telling us that thugs in every corner can just sit in one area and say, oh, police should not come here, we don't want to see police. We don't want to see police in this estate. That is not acceptable. You see, when people are giving accounts, it's obvious that the accounts that was given by the estate is not true account of what happened. Everybody will want to, if it is true account of what happened, the chairman of the board of trustees will not apologize. You understand what I'm saying? That's not the true account of what happened. Because what happened was that there are some people who do not realize the implication of what they were doing. And they were insisting to a commissioner of police that until whoever you want to go and meet, call this gate, you are not going to enter. And when the man was trying to tell them that, look, this is the commissioner of police, and they said no. So he didn't access that estate until those people were arrested. If he had not arrested those people, he would not have accessed that gate. And
the people that were arrested were also said to have, had, is it the token to the gates into the estate? So they arrested them, and then we saw the logjam outside.
What the police said was that which is possible. It's because there are two accounts. We were not there, so we have to look at the issue because everybody wants to explain things. The police officer claimed that 4 people were arrested. He assessed the place, and then they left 1 person behind to be able to control the gate, and they added security with him so that they can be able to join him there. Absolutely. You understand? That is the what police. The woman was arrested because the woman was trying. That's what I'm saying. Is the aftermath of the NSAS.
The resident said she came to intervene. The police
she intervened and she's trying to mobilize people to say, "Oh, this is our estate. You cannot do this in our estate." You cannot do that. Because what they are saying is that it's inciting people to say, okay, let us mobilize and stop this person from coming. You cannot do that. So we are not sure of what really happened. But what is important is that what is established is that some security people said the commissioner of police in his official capacity cannot enter the estate, which is wrong. The police, firefighters, and ambulance can access any estate.
And are not subjected to the checks that they claim he ought to have been subjected to.
You see why you ask people to call the gate is to identify the person that you are going to see. It's different from a police officer coming into your estate. You understand what I'm saying? If there is a security breach in your estate and they needed to attack that estate, you understand what I'm saying? When they went to attack Evans, the kidnapper, he was arrested in Magodo.
Into an estate.
He was arrested in Magodo. People went there. It was a sting operation. They went there and went to his house and arrested him in that house. So are you telling me that the security agents that have been looking for Evans forever, one of the biggest kidnappers in Nigeria, now they were able to track him to say, okay, he's in this house in Magodo. And they stormed that house. And you're telling me that because you have an estate, when they get to the gate, they will say, oh, look, where are you going? We want to go and kill. We want to go and arrest Evans. And then they will say, okay, let us call Evans to call this gate to allow you to enter. It doesn't work that way. We must not put sentiments because police have been doing things that we don't like, and then we think we don't want to respect the police. Because when we run into a problem tomorrow, are we going to call talks to come and defend us? We cannot do that. We must follow rules. Those security people should not have done what they did. And they deserve to be arrested. They were released that same day, but they deserve to be arrested because what they did is wrong.
But do you think the matter, has ended this way? Or if we take it further, we can also, explore and see how, because apparently NSAS or no NSAS, there does seem to be a clear divide now between the police and when you talk about building trust and confidence and strengthening relationship between civilians and police authorities, or by extension security agencies. There does seem to be that very major intractable divide which needs to be addressed urgently, because indeed security situations, emergencies will come up in an estate or elsewhere, and yes, who do we run to or who do we call on? First of all, it is the police. So how do you think these situations can be better managed for the good of everyone?
Well, actually, the point that I maintain is because of this issue that you just brought up. If there is a mistrust, what do we do to build trust? How do we build trust? That is what we should be talking about, and that is why the action of any senior police officer is very important in a situation of clear mistrust between the people and the security operatives. And we might not even blame the estates completely. Why do people mount security at their gates in the first instance? Do they feel secured? Even these police people that we are talking about, who I respect, who I know are working, but are people really satisfied with the security they are providing? if they are satisfied, there wouldn't have been estates mounting gates here and there in the first instance. Estates wouldn't have been recruiting the so-called recruits that you think should have respected the police commissioner in the first instance. But interestingly, as low as these security people, the guards are, they are providing security for these estates, and they are satisfied with their with whatever they are giving to them. So if we look at it from that perspective, and also knowing that, is it not possible also for criminals to put on police uniforms? It's possible.
But with that amount of
I am not saying that is what happened in this particular case, because we know that the CP identified himself and all of that.
It was glaring.
It was glaring. But I'm just pushing it further, that it's also possible for people to put on security uniforms and all of that. So we can't really blame the residents. But clearly we need, the police and the public need to build up trust.
All right. Let me have Mayor's final take on this subject.
I'm happy that the chairman of Board of Trustees apologized. That's the best thing to do. Mistake was made. Yes, I agree that the commissioner could have handled it better. I agree to that. But the fact remains that you cannot, perception is everything. You cannot surrender your power to guards in an estate, because he's not representing himself. It was the commissioner of police. He's representing the symbol of policing in the whole of Lagos State. You cannot surrender that sovereignty to security guards at any estate.
All right, we look forward to better police and police-civilian engagement. Well, that said, there's still more on Journalists Hangout Tuesday edition. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on Journalist Hangout, showing right here on TVC News. Indeed, it's a new year and time to take drastic action against insecurity ravaging Nigeria. And according to the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, Senator Ali Ndume, the federal government should name, arrest, and prosecute financiers of terrorism and insurgency in the country. Senator Ndume said that if he could be prosecuted by the federal government for sponsoring Boko Haram based on allegations by the Department of State Service, then government should go after the real sponsors of terrorists and bring them to justice. What do you make of that? It was a 6-year ordeal, as he called it, and eventually the court granted his prayers that there was no establishment of the crime of funding terrorism. Now there was nothing tying him now to that offense. So how do you? I think
the government of President Buhari is not really serious about fighting terrorism and banditry. There is this lack of will to do the needful, because United Arab Emirates gave us names of true bank transactions, those that they believe that were confirmed that they were channeling money to Boko Haram. The federal government acknowledged that. A lot of those people were said to be Borodoshan operators. Federal government acknowledged that. So why several months after that, moving to years after that, they have not arrested those people, prosecute them, and bring them to justice, means that they are not, because why is it that somebody who is a sitting senator was accused of DSS for having contact with some remnants of Boko Haram in Borno State, and he was tried, though the court said he has no case to answer. But people that were mentioned by another country who told us that, look, through bank transactions, we were able to see that these people were transferring money to Boko Haram. And the federal government acknowledged that and said, oh, about 90 of them are being identified and all that. And we have not had anything about it till now. Shows that this government does not really, they don't have the will to fight Boko Haram. And that's the truth.
Okay, what do you make of this? The government has, in its defense, several times said it will not fight or prosecute, it will not fight insurgency or terrorism on the pages of the newspaper. It would rather, once it has concrete evidence against them, prosecute, arrest and prosecute them, unlike the name and shame that many Nigerians are clamoring for, including Senator Ndume. Well,
if the government has been doing what it says it's going to do, I don't think Nigerians will be complaining by now. If it has been arresting and prosecuting them, I think, you know, it's before you arrest and prosecute that you could be secretive about whatever you are doing. Once it comes to the issue of arrest and prosecution, that becomes a public information, and I guess everybody will have been aware. Even government itself will have come out to say we are prosecuting so and so persons for this and this offense, like we saw during the NSAS movement, where some accounts were traced to be financing the NSAS movement, and they were frozen. Yeah, they were frozen, and aside that, some people were prosecuted. They were tried for that offense. So, and before the case was struck out, in any case. So, if government has been doing what it claims it's going to do or it's doing, I don't think people would have been complaining. It's clearly, we have a clear case of government saying one thing and doing another thing when it comes to cases of insurgency and insurgents in Nigeria. And it's so sad and unfortunate, because when you have a serious matter like this and you have a government that you cannot really hold your chest to say that it's working, it's serious about doing something about ending the problem, it becomes a problem. Why? Because we are, look at what is happening. For example, now we are not even dealing with insurgents alone. We now have bandits joined to the insurgents, to the Boko Haram insurgents, and everybody is like having a field day, because it's as if nothing is happening, no matter what the government tells us that they are doing. And I know they must be doing something, but it's just that whatever they are doing is not just adding up. And one of the reasons why this may not be adding up is because of this handling of matters with kid gloves, like you are not really serious minded about what you are doing. What stops us from prosecuting? Is it that Nigeria is saying that since this Boko Haram insurgency has begun, we have not arrested anybody, and we don't have record of any financiers of Boko Haram in Nigeria? Do you get it? I mean, is that what we are saying? Even if that is what we are saying, how do you perceive that kind of attitude from government? Do you get? Because you don't expect a government to tell you that kind of trash. All right, but if and when, you know, the government gets to the point of prosecuting, in October last year, or around August to October, there were talks that about 400 BDC operators, you know, would be prosecuted. And yes, you're right, nothing much seems to have, you know, circulated in the aftermath of that, despite the assurances that, you know, more concrete measures or more concrete information would be done. But even when we get to that point, how much seeing as our judiciary is plagued by, you know, so many challenges, how much level of success do you think the country would get in line with, you know, other counter-insurgency measures?
When we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. It's a different thing if government says, we've done our bit, we've identified those people, it's left for the courts to do the needful, then we can understand that. My problem with government is that for whatever reason, they don't seem to.
Let me interrupt you. We have our first caller, David from Akure. Thank you for joining in. Please join the conversation. Hello, David. Hello, David. Please carry on.
Okay, my problem with this government is that you spend so much money buying hardware for the military. Every day we lose our soldiers, every day fighting these insurgents. And then a foreign country gives you a very good information to say, look, these are the people that are channeling money to these insurgents, and we want to give it to you. And the government acknowledges it. It's a different thing if it is in the realm of rumor. The government acknowledged that yes, those people have been identified and that they were going to do something about it. Everybody knows that when you are looking at insurgency, what is important is to trace the money. Without that money, that insurgents cannot do much. They need money to buy equipment. They need money for logistics. They need money to pay their soldiers. So that is why when you are fighting terrorism, you try to trace the money, because if you can cut off the money to those people, half of the battle have been won. If you can do that. So if government gets information that these are the people who are channeling this money, and most of them are in the Magodo shop, so it means that it's not even their money per se, but there are people who are sympathetic to these people and are sending money to them, and you are taking it with so much levity. It's unbelievable. When you look at Al-Qaeda or any other terrorism group, one of the major things that United States did was to make sure that they cut their funding.
All right, let me put you on hold again. Rashid from Port Harcourt, welcome to Journalist Hangout Tuesday edition. Continue, please. Good evening. Happy New Year. Carry on, please.
Happy New Year, same to you. Yeah, sorry, I want to comment on Magodo issue. Please, there is something we are missing. Uncle Mayor, you are talking about what the analysis does not. Nobody mentioned that the police authority actually handled anybody in that state. Is that we are supposed to give the police kudos that the whole commissioner of police drives into a gate, a civilian gate for that matter. Nobody was handled, no single bullet was shot. We should give police kudos for that matter. How best could they have handled it? In my own capacity, if I have done that and I'm empowered to do that, I will have beaten up somebody from that gate.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for your contribution. Mayor?
So what I'm saying is that apart from that, you will face terrorists on the battleground. You need to trace the funding to those people, because that is the life, that is the blood of what they are doing. Without money, they cannot do those things. One of the problems that we have in Nigeria now is that when Boko Haram, when there was this faction that formed ISWAP, you understand? When they formed ISWAP, they became more difficult for our military to handle, because they have funding. They have funding. They have access to foreign soldiers, unlike Shakarau, who has his own team in Sambisa. So it was easy for us to be able to contain him. But ISWAP has more money. They have equipment. They have foreign soldiers that they pay. They can recruit people and pay them because they have the resources. So if government knows that, if they have information about funding of these people and they take it with so much levity, in fact, it is important for them to move so decisively to be able to send message to other people that we want to fund these people. But they are not handling anything. They just take it like that. I don't know the reason for it, because they acknowledge that they have identified those people and that they were going to arrest them and in the court. And we're going to months after that. We've not had anything. And that is what the senator is saying. To say, look, you now have people who are the real sponsors of these people. Why are you not going after them?
And the president is also quoted as saying during his Independence Day address last October that there were even sitting senators who they had found or suspected to have some some sort of ties with the terrorists. Another school of thought from even within the National Assembly itself says, unless these persons are named, every other person becomes suspect as having a hand in financing terrorism, unless the government indeed, goes further to identify these people.
Yeah, that's basically something that everybody should be able to know without saying anything on that. For me, if you say there are sitting senators that are probably sponsoring insurgency and you are not mentioning them, the simple conclusion will be that it's just a mere excuse. Because if you know them, if what you are saying is really true, and if you are really serious about ending this problem, the next simple thing to do is to mention names, is to name names. Okay, why are you hiding their names? Are you trying to protect them? That should be the next question. Are you trying to protect them? Are you trying to persuade them to repent or to change? Are you afraid of going after them? What could be your reason for knowing something that's dangerous and not doing something about it? Those are the questions that people will be asking. But for me, whatever could be the problem or whatever the government is doing, we need speed. At this point, I think we need a lot of speed. And the federal government, we don't have all the time in the world to handle this problem. And like he said, you need to pass messages across to people. And the kind of message you are passing across now with the way this issue is being handled, it's a message of we don't really want to do anything. There is a difference between what you say and what you do. And people say action speaks louder than voice. I think we have got to a time that we need to put in more action. We need to put in more action.
Before we run out of time on this, let's accommodate Ike from Lagos here. Welcome to the program. Carry on, please.
Hello?
Good evening, Ike. Welcome.
Yeah, Ike is my name. Please, I want to contribute to what happened at Magodo Estate.
Okay, please make it quick.
And, security guard.
Right.
Yeah. Please, in such an elite estate, those kind of security guards are supposed to be deployed here. Because even if any instruction was given to them from any quarters, they could have used the number 6. I myself am a security man, a retired military officer. This is some of the problems we are encountering. And I blame the society because we employ those who are not employed at a certain areas. Even if the commissioner of police approach to that such a thing, it must be. Any security man what be or what to be deployed in such a place supposed to identify such a public official of that status. Irrespective of being in convoy in official duty. Even that woman, they regard as a widow, who came after. Maybe
all right.
Of you, but a lot of people that insulted the people. So the security man should be.
All right.
They are inexperienced.
All right, thank you very much for your contributions. We have to move along, though. We have yet another issue to discuss, and that is about the COVID-19 pandemic, which appears to have hit the Olympus height of our government's. Drastic measures are being taken to tame it as we speak. The presidency has now put a new policy in place for governors, VIPs, and other visitors to the presidential villa in Abuja, which requires them to take rapid COVID-19 tests before they are allowed in to see the president or any other official. According to the presidency, these measures became needed as a result of the global spike in the rate of infections of the Omicron variant and the recent development in the villa, which saw some officials and aides of the president testing positive for COVID-19 and has been said the Aso Rock, or the presidential seat, is not the only place here in Nigeria across the world, we've also seen COVID-19 striking the presidential aides and all that. But for you, even beyond Aso Rock here in Lagos and elsewhere, there are concerns mounting. The festivities that just ended, there was alarm at the level of lack of caution that many exhibited as they celebrated the New Year.
This decision is typical of the way we run things in Nigeria. We try to defend the strong and abandon the weak. Now they want to be doing COVID-19 tests for everybody that enters the villa. The villa is not the only place in Nigeria. What is the level of testing all over the country? Apart from Lagos State and some few other states, some states don't even test at all. They don't even bother to test. They don't even have the logistics to test. What they do is to put vaccination logistics in place for vaccination. But people are not doing testing anymore. And the Omicron thing, because in fact, I have a feeling, because we don't test, we don't do this test, I have a feeling that Omicron is all over the place in Nigeria. But because we are over time, we have developed, because Omicron, unlike the other variants of COVID-19, has very mild symptoms. Because if you notice, in the last 1 month, you will have met so many people that will tell you that, oh, I have cough, I have a cough, I have cold, I have flu. And people will say it's the Harmattan. It's not the Harmattan, it's Omicron. It's because we don't do enough testing. And if the government to realize that, oh, if Aso Rock, if officials in Aso Rock, the seat of government, can fall prey to COVID-19, then they should start doing testing. Then they should put a policy in place that will encourage testing all over the country. We must not protect only our elites or those who are close to the seat of power. We should look at the health of Nigerians and make provisions for everybody. Right. Because we don't test. And part of the things that we need to do now is to increase, because if you look at in other climes, they've increased the level of testing. You know, when it first started, Nigerians were doing testing and all that, but now nobody bothers. Everybody does the role. But we are lucky in Africa because most of the symptoms of COVID, especially the Omicron variant, is something that we've always been used to. Malaria, fever, headache. So over time, we have built these antibodies that assisted us in doing things. Because over the last 1 month, I've met so many people that have this cold, cough, you know, and that's the main symptom of the Omicron variant.
What do you think? Even, well, also observers have also said testing, you know, for COVID-19 also comes at a fee. But, you know, in Aso Rock, the administration is assuring that visitors will not have to pay a dime, you know, to do those tests. And so they should subject themselves, maybe in some very, very, very rare cases, like VVIPs coming in or presidents from other countries coming in. They may be exempted, but they are also, you know, encouraged to do so. But looking at the point Mayor just made, how do we spread this across? Do we have what it takes?
It's even interesting that you go to Aso Rock, you don't have to pay for tests. And who goes to Aso Rock in the first instance? Aren't they the rich? Aren't they the people that can really afford to pay for the test 10 times over? They are the people that go there, but they are the ones that are not paying for it. So the Nigerians that don't even have enough to eat, are they the ones that will now look for money to pay for a test? I know that it's not in all places that you have to pay for the test, really. You can go to government facilities and you do it, except for those who are traveling and who we also think have more than enough money. That is why they want to travel in the first instance, which shouldn't be. It's not everybody that travels that really have money. There are different reasons for one to travel. But I think the point that we should just emphasize is that we should increase our level of testing and also encourage people to be vaccinated. But when you also talk about vaccination, we are also talking about the quantity of the vaccine that is available. Recently, we had to destroy a large number of the vaccine we got because they expired. So I think federal government needs to work on getting vaccines, buying vaccines Because when you rely on donation, they will only give you what they can give you. And which is one of the reasons why we had that large level of vaccines that were destroyed because they expired. So we are talking about having to invest in vaccines and getting them over, because it's one thing to also invest to buy and not to bring it on time. And at the end of the day, the shelf time of the vaccines, they become short and they just expire. So we need to encourage vaccination. We need to buy more vaccines. We need to also prop up our enlightenment campaign for Nigerians to get vaccinated and to actually protect themselves. You get it? It's not just Aso Rock will do what it did. It's like people will say that when a child sees fear, he will be afraid. Yes, when you get to a situation where the president's ADC, is very close aides are infected, you know, they have no choice than to just do something drastic, because the president must be protected. I agree, the president is the #1 citizen in Nigeria and we need to protect our president. But also the point being made is that as we protect the president, let us also protect all Nigerians. The life of everyone is important. And what even happened at Aso Rock should tell our leaders that it's the earlier we began to do things for the good, for the common good of all, the better for us as a nation. Because we never can even tell who can take that Omicron to anywhere from what we have seen. You get it? And even say that some VVIPs should not be tested. I think everybody should be tested, because the Omicron won't even write it. It does not respect VVIP. It's Omicron is Omicron. It can affect anybody. So you don't say that some very, very important personalities, they are not, because they are very, very important, does not the president of which country now was just South Africa was just reported to have contracted it with his wife. So what are we talking about? Are they not very, very important personalities? So I think everybody should be.
But seeing how the first, second, and third wave, people are describing this as the fourth. What lessons should we learn? Yes, indeed, Nigeria and some parts of Africa, have been spared from the full onslaught of COVID-19. But with the latest variant, being said to be deadlier than the former, and with this one looming, they're talking about the recovery rates not as lower than it is, for the earlier variants now. So what should we be looking at? There is still, an obvious level of is it apathy? Some people call it apathy. Yeah. Some people call it, is it disbelief as to the existence? I think the government started very well, especially Lagos State government. They started very well, and they were able to put testing in place, isolation centers and all that, and they were able to handle the first wave, which was the deadliest. But after some time, the antibodies started kicking in, so it was not as deadly as it was in the first wave. But by the time we got to the third wave, there was this apathy. Everybody thought, the worst is over. And we started with our parties, with our jollification, and everybody was just moving around as if there was no COVID again, you understand? And then coupled with the fact that there are still some people who just didn't believe in it. Like I said, because the symptoms of COVID is so similar to what they've experienced several times over, malaria, this, that, and all that, they felt, it's not COVID, it's not deadly and all that. I think government should not lose the sight government should not allow. They must continue to what they were doing, stay to educate people and let them know that this Omicron we are not out of the woods yet. All right, gentlemen, I say a very big thank you, Mayor Hakeem Odumosu and, of course, Olabisi DG Folutile. Thank you so much for your wonderful contributions on the program today. We say a big thank you to you all for keeping us company. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11. Don't forget to join us again on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout Sunday. Well, that's it on Journalist Hangout Tuesday edition. We hope to see you on Wednesday and the days ahead. From all of us here, thanks for watching. I'm Kemi Foladiemo. Bye for now and God bless Nigeria.